72 hours. That is all the time left before the largest American armada since the Iraq War reaches its target. President Trump has just issued a final ultimatum to Iran. Negotiate now, or face what he calls speed and violence on a scale the world has never seen. As the USS Abraham Lincoln crosses the Indian Ocean right now, we are officially at the closest point to global conflict in decades. Is this a masterclass in peace through strength? Or are we watching the start of World War III? Here is exactly what is happening at this very moment. Good evening and welcome back to my channel, The Policy Vault. If you are still watching, do like the video and hit that subscribe button to get the latest news. Let's get into the specifics of this massive armada. Leading the charge is the USS Abraham Lincoln, a nuclear-powered giant carrying over 5,000 sailors and 75 of the most lethal aircraft on the planet. We're talking about squadrons of FA-18 Super Hornets ready for precision strikes and EA-18G Growlers designed to completely blind Iran's radar systems before a single bomb even drops. But it's the escort ships that should have Tehran worried. The Lincoln is flanked by 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, the Frankie Peterson Jr., the Spruance, and the Michael Murphy. These aren't just support ships, they are floating missile silos. Each one is packed with Tomahawk cruise missiles that have a range of 1,500 miles. That means from their current position in the Arabian Sea, they can put a missile through a specific window in downtown Tehran without ever crossing into Iranian waters. And it's not just the Navy. The Air Force has officially moved B-52 Stratofortress bombers to Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. These legendary big sticks are on 24-hour standby, loaded with standoff weapons. This isn't a routine patrol or a show of force. This is a fully integrated offensive strike package, and it's now in position. This isn't just a show of force. It's a direct ultimatum. 2 days ago, President Trump took to Truth Social to send a message that has the entire world on edge. He called this fleet a massive armada, noting that it's even larger than the forces he deployed to topple the Maduro regime in Venezuela. Think about that for a second. We just saw this playbook work in South America, and now Trump is using the exact same language for Iran. His words were blunt. The armada is moving with great power, enthusiasm, and purpose. But it's the final line of that post that should be ringing alarm bells in Tehran. Quote, "It is ready, willing, and able to rapidly fulfill its mission, with speed and violence, if necessary." Speed and violence. Those aren't just words. They are a promise of what comes next if a deal isn't reached. Trump is making it clear that the time for waiting and seeing is over. He's told Iran that the clock is ticking, and that the strikes they faced last June will look like a minor setback compared to what's sitting in the Indian Ocean right now. The message to the Ayatollahs is simple. Come to the table and end the nuclear program, or watch the Armada finish what was started in 2025. Now let's talk geography, because where these ships are sitting right now is just as important as the weapons they carry. The USS Abraham Lincoln reached its station in the Indian Ocean just 3 days ago, and it's now positioned less than 48 hours sailing time from Iranian territorial waters. But here's the thing. The Navy doesn't even need to get that close. The Arleigh Burke destroyers in this strike group are armed with the latest Block 5 Tomahawk cruise missiles. These aren't your grandfather's missiles. We're talking about a range of over 1,500 miles, or 2,500 kilometers. To put that in perspective, the US Navy can launch a precision strike from the middle of the Indian Ocean and hit a command center in downtown Tehran, or a nuclear silo in Natanz, all without ever entering the Persian Gulf or crossing the Strait of Hormuz. These missiles hug the terrain at low altitudes, flying under the radar to evade Iran's Russian-made air defense systems. This gives President Trump a massive tactical advantage. He can order a standoff strike, effectively neutralizing Iran's nuclear infrastructure while keeping our billion-dollar carriers safely out of range of Iran's swarm of fast attack boats. Trump has made it clear that time is running out, and with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu warning that any retaliation will be met with unprecedented force, the entire region is essentially a powder keg waiting for a single spark. Iran has responded by threatening all-out war, but with Tomahawks already programmed with their coordinates, the question isn't if the US can hit them. It's when the order is given. To understand why we are on the brink of war today, we have to look back at what happened on the night of June 22, 2025. That was the night the United States launched Operation Midnight Hammer, a joint strike that changed the landscape of the Middle East in less than 30 minutes. 7 B-2 stealth bombers made an 18-hour non-stop flight from Missouri on South Side IAEA, fueled by mid-air tankers, to deliver a message that could be felt deep underground. This wasn't just a bombing run. It was the first time in human history that the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator was used in actual combat. These are the legendary 30,000-pound bunker busters, 14 of them were dropped simultaneously on Iran's most protected nuclear sites at Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. Each one of these monsters is designed to punch through 200 feet of solid rock and reinforced concrete before detonating. President Trump claimed the strikes completely and totally obliterated Iran's ability to build a weapon. And for a while, the world believed him. But here's the terrifying reality we are facing right now. Nobody actually knows if they worked. In the chaos following the strikes, Iran kicked out every single international inspector. For the last 7 months, the IAEA has been blind. We don't know if they've rebuilt. We don't know if they've moved their uranium to new secret tunnels. And we don't know how close they are to a nuclear breakout. Trump wants those answers now. And he's using the Lincoln and its Tomahawks to make sure he gets them, one way or another. Here's the most dangerous part of this entire story. The world is currently flying blind. Since the smoke cleared from the June 2025 strikes, the International Atomic Energy Agency has had zero access to Iran's primary nuclear facilities. For 7 months, there have been no cameras, no sensors, and no inspectors on the ground at Natanz, Fordo, or Isfahan. Just days ago, Iran's nuclear chief issued a chilling statement, essentially telling the UN that if the sites were bombed and destroyed, there's nothing left for the IAEA to oversee. But Western intelligence says the exact opposite is happening. Satellite imagery from just 48 hours ago shows new activity at these stricken sites, with massive roofs being built over the rubble to hide what's happening underneath from our satellites. Word is circulating in Washington that Iran is feverishly digging even deeper, constructing a new unbreakable facility at Pickaxe Mountain, designed to be completely out of reach of even our heaviest bunker busters. Before the 2025 war, the IAEA warned that Iran already had enough highly enriched uranium for up to 9 nuclear weapons. The big question now is, what happened to that stockpile? Did it survive the June strikes? Or is it being moved into these new underground fortresses as we speak? Trump isn't waiting for a report that might never come. He knows that every day the inspectors are locked out is another day Iran gets closer to a breakout. He's demanding full, immediate access to every inch of these facilities, or he's going to use the Lincoln to finish the job the IAEA can't. This isn't just a dispute over paperwork. It's a race against a clock that only Tehran can see. But there is another layer to this standoff that is even more urgent than nuclear centrifuges, and it's written in blood on the streets of Tehran. Right now, the world is trying to wrap its head around the staggering scale of the violence that took place on January 8th and 9th. Reports coming from senior officials within Iran's own Ministry of Health are terrifying. They claim that as many as 30,000 people could have been killed in just 48 hours. 30,000 Americans. That's the size of a small city. Wiped out in 2 days of state-sponsored violence. Human rights groups are describing scenes that sound like a war zone. 18-wheelers being used to move bodies because the hospitals ran out of ambulances, and a total internet blackout used to hide the campaign of revenge against anyone who dared to protest. While the Iranian government officially admits to just over 3,000 deaths, naming them all terrorists, Western intelligence and activist groups like Harena have already verified over 6,000 victims, including children. For President Trump, this was the red line. He has made it clear that the United States will not sit by while peaceful demonstrators are slaughtered. He is now using this massacre as a secondary justification for the Armada's mission. It's no longer just about no nukes, it's about stop the killing. By linking the nuclear threat to the humanitarian crisis, Trump is building a case for intervention that is becoming harder and harder for the international community to ignore. The Armada isn't just carrying missiles, it's carrying a message. The world is watching, and the cost of this crackdown is about to become very real. But there is a much bigger question hanging over the West Wing right now. And it isn't just about where the bombs fall. It's about what happens the day after. This Wednesday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio sat before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and he didn't hold back. Rubio admitted that the Iranian regime is currently weaker than it has ever been since the 1979 revolution, crippled by a collapsing economy and the massive protest waves we've seen in the streets. But here's the part that should make every American pause. When asked point blank about a plan for a post-Ayatollah Iran, Rubio was startlingly honest. He admitted that the administration has no clear answer for who takes over if the government falls. The hope, according to Rubio, is that someone within the current system would step up to lead a transition. But hope is a dangerous strategy in the Middle East. Rubio described a potential regime change in Iran as far more complex than what the US just pulled off in Venezuela. What the secretary is essentially signaling is that President Trump is playing a high-stakes game of regime chicken. The White House is betting that these strikes won't just destroy nuclear silos, but will act as the final spark for a popular uprising that topples the supreme leader once and for all. It's a gamble that could liberate 80 million people, or it could leave a massive power vacuum in the heart of the Middle East that makes the aftermath of the Iraq War look like a rehearsal. Trump is moving forward with the maximum pressure campaign. But as Rubio's testimony proved, we are heading into uncharted territory without a map. But don't think for a second that Tehran is just sitting back and waiting for the hammers to fall. The Iranian military has made it very clear that if the US launches even a single strike, the response will be comprehensive and unprecedented. We are talking about a multi-layered counterattack designed to set the entire Middle East on fire. First, the most immediate threat is to the 30,000 American troops stationed across the region. From Iraq and Syria to Qatar and Bahrain, every single US base is currently within range of Iran's massive arsenal of short and medium-range ballistic missiles. Iranian commanders have already boasted that our aircraft carriers aren't a deterrent. They are targets. Second, there is the Strait of Hormuz, the world's most important energy choke point. Iran has already announced naval shooting drills for this Sunday and Monday, right in the middle of the shipping lanes where 20% of the world's oil passes every single day. If they block that strait, even for a week, we could see oil prices skyrocket to $90 a barrel or higher, sending a shockwave through the American economy right at the pump. And finally, there are the proxies. Groups like Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq have already told their fighters to prepare for comprehensive war. They aren't just threatening missiles, they're threatening suicide operations against US embassies. From Hezbollah in Lebanon to the Houthis in Yemen, Iran's axis of resistance is with their fingers on the trigger. Netanyahu has already warned that any move against Israel will be met with force Iran has never seen. But in a region this crowded, one mistake is all it takes to turn a localized strike into a total regional inferno. So where does that leave us right now? As of this Sunday morning, February 1st, 2026, the pieces are all on the board. The USS Abraham Lincoln is sitting in the Indian Ocean. Its strike groups are fueled, and its Tomahawks are already programmed with target coordinates. President Trump has made his move. The ultimatum is public. And the 72-hour clock is officially ticking. We are looking at three distinct paths. Either Tehran blinks and lets the inspectors back in to avoid total destruction. We see a limited surgical strike that triggers a massive spike in global oil prices. Or we are at the dawn of a full-scale regional war that could reshape the 21st century. This situation is developing by the minute. In the next few days, watch the Strait of Hormuz for those Iranian live-fire drills, and keep a very close eye on the price of crude oil. If those numbers start to climb, it means the markets know something we don't. I'm going to be right here tracking every movement of the Armada, every Truth Social update, and every response from the IRGC. You do not want to miss what happens next. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications, because the next 72 hours could change everything. This is the Conflict Room. Stay informed, stay alert, and I will see you in the next update. The headlines tell you what happened, but here at the Policy Vault, we're focused on why it happened and what it means for the future of our world. The pieces on the geopolitical chessboard are moving faster than ever, and staying ahead of the curve is no longer optional. It's essential. If you want to go beyond the noise and get to the core of the policies and power plays shaping the United States and the globe, you found the right room. Don't let the cycle leave you behind. Hit that subscribe button right now and join our community of informed citizens. And make sure your notifications are on, because in a world of breaking news, context is the only real power you have. I'm your host, and this has been the Policy Vault. Thank you for watching.